It's another edition of Social Distancing Happy Hour with Hammer. My name is Garrick Taylor, as always, joined by the CEO of the Arizona Chamber, Glenn Hammer. Glenn, welcome to the 101st episode of these nightly Zooms.
Wow, that's hard to believe. We made it over triple digits.
101st episode. We are 2 weeks out from Election Day. Glenn, let's talk editorial endorsements. I know that editorials don't matter anymore, but when the big boys at the Wall Street Journal weigh in, that's got to count for something. In today's print edition, under the headline Tax Raid in Arizona, the editorial board says, there it is, visual proof.
There it is.
Tax referendum on the ballot November 3rd would whack job creators and make people rethink retirement in Scottsdale or a business move to Tucson. Glenn, your hot take on what the editorial board from the Wall Street Journal had to say.
They nail it. And the subhead under tax rate in Arizona is unions want a 20% raise in 2018, and now they want a huge tax increase. We've been able to finance appropriately this increase in teacher pay over a 3-year period because of a booming economy.
Yeah.
This tax increase, Garrick, that almost doubles our tax rate on small business, the seed corn for the Arizona economy, would end that sweet music that has allowed this economy in Arizona to boom like it has never boomed before. Those are the stakes.
Those are the stakes. Glenn, we'll go through the editorial here in just a second, but I just want to go back over a point you just made about the investments that have been made in education. It's important to note that those investments were made without a tax increase.
Exactly. We've been putting about $1 billion a year of new funding into our K through 12 system without raising taxes. And we've done that by being smart. We've used the state trust land dollars. We boosted that in a very smart way with, by the way, the amount in terms of the corpus of the state trust has increased as we've been using more of those funds to pay for K through 12 expenses. We've extended Proposition 301, the 0.6 cent sales tax for 20 years. And the overall economy, the economic health has allowed us to make these investments comfortably while building up $1 billion surplus in our state's rainy day fund before the pandemic. So we've been able to manage the state's budget well. We've been able to also make additional investments into community colleges and universities, right, which Proposition 208 it completely ignores. And, you know, along comes this populist Bernie Sanders type proposal. By the way, Bernie Sanders has endorsed it. We have to admit that to the viewers.
Congratulations to the proponents on that one.
Congratulations. That would blow our competitive advantage away. It would end it. It would blow part of the secret sauce that has allowed this economy, the population, prosperity for all Arizonans, regardless of political party. That would quickly go bye-bye, and it would be a grave mistake.
Glenn,
a turning point for the state.
The editorial says, as ever, this is being pitched as soaking the rich, but about half the targets would be small businesses that pay taxes at the individual rate. Goes on to say that these small businesses, their words, employ a, quote, huge chunk of Arizona workers, and the added tax costs would trickle down in lower pay, fewer jobs. Glenn, it's a huge chunk. 58% of the Arizona private sector workforce works for one of these businesses that pays its taxes via the individual portion of the code.
We've got about 1 million private sector jobs in Arizona that would be at risk. And, you know, our economy has been coming back from the pandemic. You know, probably at the height of it, we lost over 300,000 jobs. But Garrick, we're still 125,000 jobs short. That's a lot. That by itself is one of the most severe recessions the state has ever faced. And to put these additional obstacles up on the sector of the economy, small business, that is most likely to add jobs and has been most harmed by the pandemic is, in my opinion, morally wrong. I'm just going to say it's morally wrong. 1 out of every 7 or so small businesses nationwide are gone, goodbye, forever. So, here we are, we've been working hard 6, 7, 8 months to try to preserve all these businesses. We've been strong supporters of the federal Paycheck Protection Program and other types of efforts to preserve our small businesses and the jobs that come with them. And here's this proposal that goes in the opposite direction. And I'll just tell you, there's not another state in the country that is proposing anything along these lines that would target its state's small businesses. Look, I'm not saying we would oppose a corporate tax increase. Okay, so I'll make that very clear. But the fact that you have a proposal that would hit 50% of the filers are small businesses, and the Fortune 500 would pay 0 collectively is nuts. It's nuts. And that tax rate remains at 4.9%, while the small business tax goes up to 8% from about 4.5%, which, by the way, would be about double of Colorado's, Utah, New Mexico's, and Nevada has 0. So just imagine in terms of regional competitiveness, it just absolutely destroys it.
Well, speaking of regional competitiveness, but also national competitiveness, the editorial board at the Journal points out that states like California, Illinois, New York, they're exporters in their destination market. Arizona, you're a Bronx-born baby. New York has lost 37,000 tax returns and more than $2 billion in adjusted gross income to where? Arizona.
Okay, so incoming.
Right.
This is not theoretical. I feel this personally. And by the way, because of social media, I still have a lot of friends in New York. And if they could get out of New York and come here,
sure,
they would do it in a heartbeat. But growing up as a kid, never in a million years would I expect at this point in my life that Florida would have more people. And it's not just the weather. It's the tax climate, it's the business climate. So these things matter, and things could change rather rapidly. And Arizona was not always this fast growing state. It was not always a state that was rocking and rolling, particularly when it comes to these higher technology jobs. This was a conscious decision by the state, starting in the early 90s by former Governor Fife Symington, but continued and improved by every single governor since Fife Symington, whether it was Governor Hull, Governor Napolitano, Governor Brewer, and now Governor Ducey. We've seen improvements in our competitiveness every year. And what have we seen? More people, more jobs, more dollars to invest, not just in education, but other services such as healthcare.
The board says a tax increase also makes no sense as the state is, this sounds like Glenn Hammer wrote that, as the state is, quote, still trying to recover from its summer COVID-19 spike. Governor Ducey opposes the ballot measure, helped keep the state in motion by allowing key industries to reopen after unemployment peaked at 13.4% in April, but the jobless rate still stood at 5.9% in August. Prop 208's tax increase would slow investment and spending far into the future. We're playing with live bullets, aren't we? We had unemployment, Glenn, over 13%. We're still dangerously close to 6%. The pandemic, unless I've missed the tweet, is still happening. This is real dangerous.
This is really dangerous. And all the reports, whether it's the far left of center Grand Canyon Institute, they say it'll be 10,000 jobs. The Goldwater Institute of Jim Round say it'll be over 100,000 jobs, about 115, 120. Right. Art Laffer and Steve Moore just did a report for our foundation. They find we would lose 237,000 jobs. The bottom line is we have to recover over 125,000 jobs. No matter which report you choose, we're going to be losing tens of thousands of good Arizona jobs. And that just is not going to be good for people who are seeking work. And it certainly is not going to be good for all of the different obligations we have as a state to cover, including K-12 education, including our community colleges, and including our healthcare system. It's all on the line. this November.
Glenn,
This would be a death blow to the state's well-earned reputation as a good place to do business. That would be over.
Glenn, one of the criticisms that you have faced personally, as well as just the opposition generally that comes from the proponents is, well, Glenn, you say you don't like Prop 208. What's your plan? Now, the problem with that, in my mind, Glenn, is that that conversation doesn't take place on the ballot. There's one question on the ballot this November, and that's whether to nearly double the individual income tax rate. And as it's phrased by the Wall Street Journal, Arizona voters have to decide if they want to set their successful state on the tax and spend path to fewer jobs and slower growth. That's the question that's before voters this November.
Well, that's right. And our plan is keep a healthy economy, keep increasing our expenditures for our K through 12 system, but also continue to do things that reform our system and provide accountability. Like, let's remember, this has zero accountability, zero reform. Every day that passes, the Pro 208 crowd has another goodie that this will fund. This is not focused. You know, when they say there's a teacher shortage, which there is, by the way, it also happens to exist in every other state in the country. Right. This is not focused on that problem. This goes to bus drivers. This goes to people in the lunchroom, all honorable jobs. But that is not the teacher shortage. There's no correlation that I'm aware of between people driving kids to school and academic performance. It's teachers, it's principals, and those are the two inputs that are most important. This is no accountability, no reforms. It's $1 billion. Our small business community bears the brunt of this. Wrong plan, wrong time. Vote no, Prop 208.
Yeah, the marketing behind this, I admit the proponents have pulled a neat trick because it's being marketed as a teacher pay raise. But as you just pointed out, read the fine print, because it's the broadest and most diluted definition of teacher that I think many of us have seen in a long time.
It's everything that could possibly fit under the definition. It's not the definition of teachers that belongs in any dictionary that I'm aware of. Yeah. So, you know, again, we want to continue to make those investments. If we torpedo the state's economy, that's not going to be possible. And Proposition 208 would hurt our small businesses, hurt our ability to regain the 125,000 or so lost jobs that we still need to recover, and would end the state's incredible run over multiple governors of both parties of great population growth, great job growth, great prosperity. It's wrong plan, wrong time, and we would urge voters to vote no.
Glenn, before we let you go, it is worth pointing out that we've talked about editorials before. The Wall Street Journal is obviously a respected voice, as is the Republic's editorial board. We have to concede, though, as you mentioned earlier, the proponents have been endorsed by Bernie Sanders. That says a lot, doesn't it?
Well, if you're a Sandinista, it does. No, I mean, look, I didn't honeymoon in the Soviet Union, so it's a bad plan, and you know, there's a lot of, I just want to say, this is not a Republican Democrat thing. This is not a centrist proposal. There are plenty of other ways to fund education. We've talked about sales tax. In fact, Garrick, I mean, we were, maybe we were suckers. I mean, I recall us fighting very hard for fair taxation when it came to internet goods. That's called the Wayfair fix. That's not just good for the state budget. That's good for localities. I don't recall some of the education advocates who put this on the ballot, say the Portland, Oregon outfit or the AEA, standing with us to try to get fair taxation.
I missed it.
I no, seriously. I mean, maybe we just missed it. Maybe they were helpful behind the scenes. I missed it. But think, we're in a pandemic. We're buying more and more stuff online. We played a role. This is more money into our K through 12 system, more money available for our K through 12 system, as well as other obligations. And I
Right.
think we've always been responsible when it has come to tax policy. I think we've always been responsible when it comes to making expenditures. Again, if you want to go in the way back machine, when the doo-doo really hit the fan during the Great Recession,
Mhm.
weren't we there with the 3-year penny $1 billion tax increase? Not popular with a lot of our friends, including in the Wall Street Journal, but we were there.
Right.
And now it's like all the different things that we've done over the last 10 years to rebuild our K through 12 education budget, which probably right now, adjusted for inflation, when you add in the federal dollars, if it's not at an all-time high, it's pretty darn close.
Mhm.
We've been there. It's wrong that some of those from out of state have put this on the ballot, are not properly selling what it would do, are completely neglecting all of that progress. Again, I'll just conclude by saying this. I've said this a number of times. I've never been checked on this, so maybe some of our friends on social media will do so.
Okay.
I don't believe any state over the last 5 years has put more money into its K through 12 system, has made more money available for its teachers, and done more in the way of meaningful reforms for low-income students, such as results-based funding. I'm proud of the record in Arizona. We have more work to do, but this would be a big step backwards, both in terms of education policy and certainly the great business environment that we're so proud of boasting about to companies in the United States and abroad.
Well said, as always. 2 weeks to go, Glenn. Or heck, who knows how many weeks? We know, I know when election day is, but I don't know when we'll get the results.
You know, we'll just keep grinding. But this is a big one, and I appreciate, you know, the Arizona Republic wrote a terrific editorial. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Other papers in Arizona have as well, and I appreciate everyone who is working so hard to protect Arizona's economy, and you know, we will keep working to the very end, and I'm optimistic we'll get a good result.
That's right. All right, Glenn, thanks as always. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, Garrick.